It started with rain, the kind that turns the highway into a black mirror and makes every red and blue light feel brighter than it should be, and the first thing I remember thinking was, not, I did something wrong, but here we go again, you know what I mean? It was close to midnight, empty road, cruise control, steady hands where they were supposed to be, everything clean and quiet, and then those lights flared up behind me like a flare gun going off in the dark, and my chest tightened, in that way you don't really talk about unless you've lived it. I pulled over, slow, signal on, window down, halfway light on inside the car, doing every single thing, right? Because I'd been taught, because I'd learned early that doing nothing wrong doesn't always protect you. But doing something wrong can be an excuse someone's already looking for. The officer didn't walk up like this was routine. He came up hard, fast, flashlight smacking the glass instead of tapping, and right there I knew this wasn't about a broken taillight or a random check. He didn't even look at my face at first, just scanned the inside of the car. The seats, the dash, the steering wheel, like the car itself offended him. License and registration. No hello. No reason. Just a tone that said, I already decided what you are. I moved. Slow. Talked through every motion because that's what you do when you're trying to make it home instead of onto the news. And he snapped at me for that too. Told me to stop talking, stop explaining, just comply. And I remember thinking how strange it is that silence and explanation can both be taken as attitude depending on who's judging you. When he saw the name on the registration, his whole posture changed, not relaxed, not calmer, sharper, like he'd found something he could use. Is this your car? Daddy's car? Must be nice. What does he do? And that question wasn't curiosity, it was accusation, like there was only one acceptable answer, and I wasn't going to give it. When I said retired military, he laughed. Actually laughed, and looked back at his partner like it was a joke they both understood. And that laugh hurt more than I expected because it was familiar, that sound people make when they've already decided you're lying. I asked if I was being detained or free to go because I knew my rights, because I was tired of shrinking and the air changed instantly like I'd crossed some invisible line. He leaned in close enough that I could smell stale coffee and something bitter, and he told me to step out of the vehicle, no explanation, just a command. I asked why he said he smelled marijuana, and yeah, that happened, the oldest line in the book, the one that turns nothing into something whenever someone wants it to. Before I could even unbuckle, the door was yanked open and his hand was on my arm, pulling hard, the seatbelt biting into my shoulder as I stumbled out into the rain mud, splashing up my legs, my heart pounding so loud it felt like it might crack my ribs. I remember yelling that he was hurting me, and him shouting resisting arrest like it was a magic word, like saying it made everything okay. The side of the car was cold and unforgiving against my face when he slammed me into it. The cuffs went on too tight, painfully tight, and when I asked him to loosen them, he leaned close and told me my father couldn't help me now that I was in his world, and that sentence stayed with me longer than the bruises. From the back of the cruiser, through fogged glass and rain, I watched his partner walk back from the car, holding a small clear bag, his face pale, eyes wide and even. Before my brain caught up, my body knew, this isn't real. This wasn't there. And the way the officer held it up, smiling like he'd won something, made my stomach drop into something colder than fear. The ride to the station felt unreal, like I was floating somewhere above myself, counting turns, street signs, anything solid to keep my mind from spiraling, because panic doesn't help you remember, and remembering felt important. At the station, I was processed like a number, charges rattled off like items on a grocery list, possession, resisting assault, words that didn't match anything that had actually happened, but sounded heavy enough to crush you if you let them. I asked for a phone call and was told later, then told the phones were down, then laughed at when I said that wasn't legal, and when I finally said my father's name out loud, said to check the federal database, not local, the officer laughed again and told me in this town he was the law. What he didn't see was the system freezing in the background, a screen lighting up with warnings he'd never bothered to learn about, a red phone ringing that wasn't meant for him. My father didn't drive fast to the station. He didn't need to, and when he walked through the doors, there was a calm around him that felt almost unreal compared to the chaos I'd been sitting in, like the eye of a storm had finally arrived. The officer tried to stop him, tried to posture, tried to poke and threaten and mock, calling him the military daddy, saying I was in real trouble, and I watched through the glass as my father looked at him, really looked at him, and said quietly, "You touched her." The next few seconds happened so fast they blurred together, a wrist twisting, a scream, officers shouting, guns coming up, and my father standing there with his hands raised, calm as if nothing had happened, saying he was unarmed, but that the man had assaulted his daughter. When the doors opened again and the room filled with people who didn't wear local badges, when a general's voice cut through the noise and ordered my father released. Everything shifted like gravity had changed direction. He came to me first, wrapped me up, checked my wrists, my shoulders, my face whispered that he was here and that I was safe now, and for the first time since those lights came on behind me, I believed it. Back in the bullpen, the truth came out piece by piece, not through yelling or threats, but through video, through timestamps, through frame-by-frame reality that didn't care about anyone's story. You could see the bag appear, you could see the hesitation on the partner's face, you could hear the whispered argument that never should have existed. And there was this moment of silence where everyone realized there was no way to spin it anymore. The badge came off, the gun followed, and the same officer who had dragged me through the rain was suddenly the one in cuffs shouting about unions and rights that he'd laughed at when they were mine. As they led him out, my father leaned close and told him he'd mistaken power for protection, and that mistake was going to cost him everything. The days that followed felt like watching dominoes fall from a distance, union dropping him, lawyer not returning calls, family pulling away the video, spreading faster than any official statement ever could, and when the trial finally came, I sat in the front row. Not because I wanted to relive it, but because I wanted to be seen. Wanted him to see that I wasn't broken, that I hadn't disappeared the way he probably expected me to. The jury watched the footage again and again. The verdict came back guilty on everything, the sentence heavy and